This miniature was primed with Vallejo's white primer before I airbrushed on Molotov's liquid chrome. Regardless if you're applying this product with an airbrush or brush, I personally get a cleaner, more reflective result when I apply it slightly on the thicker side, though you still want to be mindful to not put it on so thick that you lose any details. With the chrome dry, I airbrushed some violet from below for shadows. If you were to follow the steps in this video, I would skip this one. I'll explain why a little later. I then mix some of Tamiya's clear red and thinner, and no, these are absolutely not the exact same steps that I stole from Marco Frazzoni. I didn't steal, from his Blood Angels video. That said video is not also linked in the top right corner. This stuff is extremely transparent and you have to add it a little at a time and allow it to dry in between many applications. I then went inside and got under my desk lamp only to learn that I'm still a very yellowish orange. So I head back outside and mix some more and continue to slowly build up the layers so that I finally get that nice deep red. After which I then mix some of Tamiya's clear and thinner to add a transparent clear coat for protection before I head back inside again to my desk to start on the brushwork. But before that, let's hear from the first real sponsor for this channel. I'm just kidding. I barely got 1,000 subscribers at the time of this video. I ain't got no damn sponsors. But you can help that by clicking all of them good for me buttons, and it'll only cost you a few seconds of your time and less than 1 calories worth of effort. Now that we are back and you've clearly subscribed, liked, commented, and shared this video to everyone you know and then forced them to do the exact same, I started the brushwork with applying a matte black to any of the areas that should be, well, black. With the red areas clear coated, I didn't have any fear of removing any overbrushing of the black paint, whereas I would have been concerned with flecking it away otherwise. I have used Tamiya products only a few times, with this being my 3rd attempt. The first attempt was on some cheap plastic army men that I used for testing color combinations, and the second attempt came out nicely and will be another video later in the year. I moved on to base coating the gold, which ultimately was the longest single step in this entire project, mostly because I moved extremely slow and I did not want any errant strokes onto the red. This paint dries quickly and metallics typically do not clean up as nicely as basic acrylic paints do. Touch-ups on the red would be extremely difficult at this point. As a side note, I've seen other painters comment on painting in deliberate strokes and never using a windshield wiper-like motion, both to maintain control and preserve your brushes. I do agree with this in most cases, except in certain situations, particularly when using extremely runny paint such as Vallejo metallics. By having a minute amount of paint on the brush, pushing the bristles in gently and then slowly running them back and forth, while meticulously working your way in and out to the edges seemed to work very well for me. With base coats now finished, I head back to my airbrushing station and reapply the violet shadows, though this time I use an ink and reapply this from below. The reason why I did this again was the previous violet shadows only appeared on the red armor since I fully base coated everything else afterwards. The idea was to have a purple glow emanating from below, which only makes sense if it's on everything. I came back with some gold and touched up any spots where I got a little too heavy-handed with the violet airbrushing before I swapped to a metallic silver to add edge highlights and reflections. Afterwards, I did a quick oil wash, mostly on the golds in the chest. Once the wash was dried, somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes, I used a makeup sponge slightly dampened with solvent and wiped away any of the wash that's not in the recesses. I then finished off the yellow lightning bolt with 2-layer highlights of increasingly brighter yellows. I then finish off the highlights on the miniature by mixing a black, dark blue, and off-white to make a stormy, cloudy blue. I apply this as lines and circular edge highlights on the base as well. I add some more off-white to the mix for a second highlight, repeating the same steps through highlighting less area and with sharper lines. The same goes for the base, although I decided to try something different and painted some squiggly lightning bolts as well. I add yet more off-white as a final highlight for the robot, and then on the base, again highlighting less area and with as thin of lines as possible. Focusing now solely on the base, I just add two more steps, one of glazing purple over the entire base top, as this will be the light source for the violet shadows on the miniature, before I use just pure off-white as a final highlight for the lightning and circular lit edge. And this is where I stop. Despite how little was actually done on this miniature, I'm happy with how it came out, mostly due to having fond memories of the Power Rangers run through the United States. I can hear this hyperactive little helper's overly child-friendly voice clearly in my head even to this day. I'm especially happy with how clean and reflective the candied red came out and the violet shadows on the gold. I also liked having tried something new with simple lightning on the base. For lessons learned, Tamiya's clear range is extremely transparent, and when I say you have to slowly build up many layers, I mean a lot of layers. When you think you're done, you probably need to do 2 or 3 times that amount. I also already bought a bright light to make sure I went hard enough in the future before I leave the airbrushing station. Also, when planning for an ambient light source from below or even from above, if I'm going to do this with an airbrush, I need to at least make sure I've base coated everything so that this glow shows on all areas. It wouldn't make much sense if it only appeared on the red, at least in the manner that I was going for. The main thing that I could have easily improved on here was the lightning itself. If I spent maybe double the time and made each highlight layer more opaque, it could have easily come out significantly better. And that'll bring this video to its end. I hope you learned something or inspired to start or expand your own collection of subservient robots who fulfill the wishes of a floating bald noggin in a tube. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, you can easily support the channel by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.